Welcome back to Living in the Word, and today we are looking at Moses and Pharaoh, part 3, so let's begin. Exodus 9, verses 1 to 7. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, Thus says Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, release my people, so that they may serve me. But if you are refusing to release, and you still are keeping hold of them, look, the hand of Yahweh is about to be present with a very severe plague on your livestock that are in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the cattle, on the sheep and goats. But Yahweh will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt, and not a thing will die from all that belongs to the Israelites." And Yahweh set an appointed time, saying, "Tomorrow Yahweh will do this thing in the land." And Yahweh did this thing the next day. All the livestock of Egypt died, but from the livestock of the Israelites not one died. And Pharaoh sent to check, and it turned out not even one from the livestock of Israel had died. But Pharaoh's heart was insensitive, and he did not release the people. This is the first plague which actually results in death. All the livestock of the Egyptians dies, but none of the Israelites' livestock dies. Pharaoh still refuses to let the Israelites go. Now this fifth plague was against the gods Ptah, Nineveh, Hathor, and Ammon, gods associated with bulls and cows. Exodus 9 verses 8 to 12. And Yahweh said to Moses and to Aaron, "Take for yourselves full handfuls of soot from a smelting furnace, and let Moses sprinkle it toward the heavens before the eyes of Pharaoh, and it will become fine dust over all the land of Egypt, and it will become on humans and on animals a skin sore, sprouting blisters in all the land of Egypt." And they took the soot of the smelting furnace, and they stood before Pharaoh, and Moses sprinkled it toward the heavens, and it became skin sores, sprouting blisters on humans and on animals. And the magicians were not able to stand before Moses because of the skin sores, for the skin sores were on the magicians and on all the Egyptians. And Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not listen to them, as Yahweh had spoken to Moses. Now God sends boils upon the Egyptians. It is hinted at in verse 11 that it only affected the Egyptians. Now this sixth plague was against Sekhmet, the goddess of epidemics, and Imhotep, the god of healing. Exodus 9 verses 13 to 35. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Start early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Look, he is going out to the water, and you must say to him, Thus says Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, release my people so that they may serve me. For at this time I am sending all of my plagues to you personally, and among your servants and among your people, so that you will know that there is no one like me in all the earth. For now I could have stretched out my hand, and I could have struck you and your people with the plague, and you would have perished from the earth. But for the sake of this I have caused you to stand, for the sake of showing you my strength, and in order to proclaim my name in all the earth. Still you are behaving haughtily to my people by not releasing them. Look, about this time tomorrow I am going to cause very severe hail to rain, the like of which has not been in Egypt from the day it was founded until now. And now send word, bring into safety your livestock and all that belongs to you in the field. The hail will come down on every human and animal that is found in the field and not gathered into the house, and they will die. Anyone from the servants of Pharaoh who feared the word of Yahweh caused his servants and livestock to flee to the houses. But whoever did not give regard to the word of Yahweh abandoned his servants and his livestock in the field. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand to the heavens, and let there be hail in all the land of Egypt, on human and on animal, and on all the vegetation of the field in the land of Egypt." And Moses stretched out his staff to the heavens, and Yahweh gave thunder and hail, and fire went to the earth. And Yahweh caused hail to rain on the land of Egypt, and there was hail, and fire was flashing back and forth in the midst of the very severe hail, the like of which was not in all the land of Egypt since it had become a nation. And the hail struck in all the land of Egypt, all that was in the field, from human to animal, and the hail struck all the vegetation of the field, and smashed every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were, there was no hail. And Pharaoh sent and called Moses and Aaron, and said to them, I have sinned this time. Yahweh is the righteous one, and I and my people are the wicked ones. Pray to Yahweh, the thunder of God and hail are enough, and I will release you, and you will no longer have to stay. And Moses said to him, At my leaving the city I will spread out my hands to Yahweh, the thunder will stop, and the hail will be no more, so that you will know that the earth belongs to Yahweh. But as for you and your servants, I know that you do not yet fear the presence of Yahweh God. And the flax and the barley were struck, because the barley was in the ear and the flax was in bud, but the wheat and the spelt were not struck, because they are late ripening. And Moses went from Pharaoh out of the city, and he spread his hands to Yahweh, and the thunder and the hail stopped, and rain did not pour on the earth. And Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder stopped, and he again sinned and made his heart insensitive, he and his servants. And Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he did not release the Israelites, as Yahweh had said by the agency of Moses. Now God gives a warning to Pharaoh before the hailstorm begins. This is the first time that he does this. Any servants of Pharaoh who now feared God made sure their livestock and people were safe. After the hail, or during the hail, near the end, Pharaoh agrees to the Israelites. But once the hail stops, he changes his mind yet again. This time Moses is already aware that Pharaoh will change his mind. Now this seventh plague of hail, was against Nut, the goddess of the sky, Isis and Seth, agricultural gods, and Shua, the god of the atmosphere, weather, and sky. We'll continue reading Exodus 10, verses 1 to 20. And Yahweh said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh, for I have made his heart insensitive, and the heart of his servants, in order to put these signs of mine in his midst, so that you will tell in the ears of your child and your grandchild that I dealt harshly with the Egyptians, and so that you will tell about my signs that I have done among them, and so you will know that I am Yahweh. And Moses and Aaron came to Pharaoh, and they said to him, Thus says Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, Until when will you refuse to submit before me? Release my people so that they may serve me. But if you are refusing to release my people, look, I am about to bring locusts into your territory tomorrow, and they will cover the surface of the land, and no one will be able to see the land. And they will eat the remainder of what is left over for you from the hail, and they will eat every sprouting tree belonging to you from the field. And your houses will be full, and your houses of all your servants, and the houses of all Egypt, something that your fathers and your grandfathers never saw from the day they were on the earth until this day. And he turned and went out from Pharaoh. And the servants of Pharaoh said to him, Until when will this be a snare for us? Release the men so that they may serve Yahweh their God. Do you not yet know that Egypt is destroyed? And Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, and he said to them, Serve Yahweh your God. Who are the ones going? And Moses said, With our young and with our old we will go, with our sons and with our daughters, with our sheep and goats and with our cattle we will go, because it is the feast of Yahweh for us. And he said to them, Let Yahweh be thus with you as soon as I release you and your dependents. See that evil is before your faces. No, indeed, just the men go and serve Yahweh, since this is what you are seeking. And he drove them out from the presence of Pharaoh. And Yahweh said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt with the locusts, so that they may come up over the land of Egypt, and let them eat all the vegetation of the land and all that the hail left behind. And Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and Yahweh drove an east wind into the land all that day and all night. The morning came, and the east wind had brought the locusts, and the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt, and they settled in all the territory of Egypt, very severe. Before it there were not locusts like them, nor will there be after it. And they covered the surface of all the land, and the land was dark with them, and they ate all the vegetation of the land, and all the fruit of the trees that the hail had left. And no green was left in the trees, nor in the vegetation of the field in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh hurried to call Moses and Aaron, and he said, I have sinned against Yahweh your God, and against you. And now forgive my sin surely this time, and pray to Yahweh your God, so that he may only remove from me this death. And he went out from Pharaoh, and he prayed to Yahweh, and Yahweh turned a very strong west wind, and lifted up the locusts, and thrust them into the Red Sea, and not one locust remained in all the territory of Egypt. And Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not release the Israelites. Moses and Aaron bring Pharaoh news of a new plague if he refuses to let the Israelites go, a plague of locusts. What's interesting here is that Pharaoh's servants plead with Pharaoh to let them go. Now, in those times, such opposition to Pharaoh would have resulted in severe punishment, maybe even death. So these servants really risked their lives in pleading with Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. Pharaoh only partly agrees with Moses and allows only the men to go, but this is unacceptable to God. Now the locusts arrived the next day through the east wind, and they destroy anything left over that the hail missed, including the land of Goshen. Now the reason for this is because the Israelites didn't need the land anymore. They were ready to leave Egypt. So there was no point in God preserving the land that they had, the stocks that they had. Pharaoh asked for forgiveness. God sends the locusts away, and Pharaoh changes his mind. Now this eighth plague was against Serapeah, a god to protect Egypt from locusts. Exodus 10, verses 21 to 29. And Yahweh said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward the heavens so that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, and so that a person can feel darkness. And Moses stretched out his hand toward the heavens, and there was darkness of night in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. No one could see his brother, and because of it no one could move from where they were for 3 days, but there was light for the Israelites in their dwellings. And Pharaoh called Moses and said, go, serve Yahweh. Only your sheep and goats and your cattle must be left behind. Your dependents may also go with you. And Moses said, even if you yourself put into our hands sacrifices and burnt offerings, and we offer them to Yahweh our God, our livestock must also go with us. Not a hoof can be left, because we must take from them to serve Yahweh our God. And we will not know with what we are to serve Yahweh until we come there. And Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he was not willing to release them. And Pharaoh said to him, go from me. Be careful not to see my face again, because on the day of your seeing my face you will die. And Moses said, that is right. I will not again see your face. The ninth plague, the plague of darkness, was against Ra, the god of the sun. Now, Ra was considered the king of all the Egyptian gods. So for 3 days the sky was dark. Pharaoh summons Moses and allows the Israelites to go, but without their livestock. Again, unacceptable to God. Pharaoh now instructs Moses to never show his face to him again. Exodus 11, verses 1 to 10. And Yahweh said to Moses, still one plague I will bring upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterward he will release you from here. At the moment of his releasing, he will certainly drive you completely out from here. Speak in the ears of the people and let them ask a man from his neighbor and a woman from her neighbor for objects of silver and objects of gold. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the eyes of Egypt. Also the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the eyes of the servants of Pharaoh and in the eyes of the people. And Moses said, Thus says Yahweh, about the middle of the night I will go out through the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt will die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne to the firstborn of the slave woman who is behind the pair of millstones, and every firstborn animal. And there will be a great cry of distress in all the land of Egypt, the like of which has not been nor will be again. But against all the Israelites, from a man to an animal, a dog will not even bark, so that you will know that Yahweh makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. And all of these your servants will come down to me and bow to me, saying, Go out, you and all the people who are at your feet, and afterward I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in great anger. And Yahweh said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that my wonders may multiply in the land of Egypt. And Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart. But he did not release the Israelites from this land. So now before Moses actually leaves Pharaoh's presence, he announces to Pharaoh this last plague, the plague of the firstborn. Well, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. God bless.